Well, today we're going to do it. We're going to drill a hole in the bottom of a perfectly good boat just for the decadent pleasure of having a depth finder. For your through hole, because it's right on the center of the boat, and it's and forward of the keel a foot or two, but it's not on the rise.
A little more forward than what you were talking, I think.
Oh yeah, it is. Not much though.
No.
I mean, look at the.
So.
That's actually pretty close.
That might be the spot. That might be the spot.
Yeah, because that's a lot further back than what we were talking
it's
about.
Almost a foot and a half or so forward of the keel.
Yeah.
2 feet from where the lower end of the keel is. Yeah.
Okay, this is the depth finder on a flicker, and what they've done is they built the hole out so that looks like with a wood block. Yeah, they built the hole out so the transducer will set flat. That's what they've done, and then of course they went and painted over it, so it's not going to work anyway. But that's because of the rise that it's got here. That would be a lot of fun getting this on the trailer. Okay, so this is another Compac 23, and he's back a ways too, right at the edge of the cabin. So he's still in the head area in there. Okay, this is a much newer Compac 23 though, and he's got his installed in the rear behind the keel, only about 3 feet or so from the stern. Okay, so as far as placement goes, when I was inside, from that portal, the forward portal, is right above the access to the storage. So if we come down just in front of the bunk, I think it'd be probably about the best spot. In front of the bunk, but over here, right in here.
Why are you coming back further?
Because that's what we just discussed. This is the storage area for your all your junk. This is not in front of the water tank. The water tank is up about here.
I understand that, but the other boats were more like here.
Well, and that could well be because you have to come out because the walking area, this would be perfect, but that's where you're walking. Okay, so it probably would be out. But you want to be as close to the center line of the boat as you possibly can.
I'm not sure, but I think if you want to come up here and eyeball it with me, I think what we want to do is if we line up the depth sounder with the leading edge of the cabin.
I think that's how to put it too far forward.
That would be about right there.
See, what I was sighting off of before to be in that storage area, when I stood directly above here, yeah, when I stood right here and sighted down, I was right on the light on the trailer, that light. And then if you go straight in from that, you're talking somewhere right in here.
We were checking out the other boats so that we could determine what has been done. I guess we should maybe ask them how it works.
Well, yeah, and what I don't know is in talking with the people on the Compac site where exactly theirs are, but there's only certain places you can put it. And remember when we were in the forward of the water tank, you weren't that far from the bow because it was already starting to go up. So I'm thinking, well, we can go. Let's go do some measurement, but I bet you it's going to be just right about there. Okay, so we've determined the keel is about 2 inches in front of that chain plate. Okay, so the update is the chain plate is right at the end of the keel. Alright, so all we really need to do then is go forward a little bit, which would put it right about. Okay, that looks like the place we're going to put it. And we've moved to the starboard side of the boat from the other because we have a sink on this side that will be a much more protected area for our finder, or for our transducer, and that theoretically will come out right about here. So I'm going to go aboard and we will start the drilling procedure there, and what you'll see come out, if everything goes right, will be the pilot part of the bit. Now, then we'll come back out here and finish drilling the hole.
He drills, hopefully we'll see the bit come through the bottom of the boat. If all goes well.
Get it?
Yeah. Huh?
Did you get it?
It came through?
Yeah.
Well, you gotta do it again.
Go straight in because we don't want to have any angles on the wall. So we'll give this a shot, one time only, and I'm no expert. Don't do this at home. Ta-da! Well, I really thought that would be a thicker hole, but I guess it's not. And there it is. We're done. Well, we've got the hole drilled here, and that's pretty well cleaned out. Now all we've got to do is stick the transducer up there, and that means taking a little nut off and threading everything back up. Regular rat's nest of wires. It's not just line that does that. Alright, so we're going to send all this, almost got it up here now, and we're just going to stick the, oh, for Pete's sake. Well, I guess that's the fun of boat ownership. The ring, of course, is not going to go up because it won't fit. So we'll just do this over. Why don't you all go have a beer or something, and we'll get back to you. Now we'll find out if we drilled the right size hole. And we did. Not too much play there. Well, that should work. In order to seal this in, I did some research, and I know quite a few folks like to use the 5200 3M product, but that's for permanent seals, and this is not a permanent installation because heaven help us, should this transducer ever fail, I want to be able to take it off the boat without too much difficulty. So what I did is I've got some 3M product, but it's the Fast Cure 4200, and this is supposed to be a moderate adhesive ability, but it's also removable. Okay, so what we're going to do is just put a good heavy bead on, and one of us goes back in the boat to hold it up and put the wing nut on it, and then after a day or two we'll have a boat we can put in the water. Okay, let's do a trial fit. Does it look like you'll be able to get the nut on without problem?
I would say yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was afraid I might have been too close to that bulkhead. All right, so there's room. Okay, now you're going to have to take it off. Take it off so I can put the goop on it. Yeah, all right, you're supposed to do a nice thick bead, they say. They being, I don't know who, but here we go. That looks like a good thick bead. You going to be ready to screw it on? Okay. Pull up the cord.
Okay, you'll have to hold it steady.
I understand.
There's a little friction when I started screwing.
All right, now hold it. Hold it. Let me push it up. Oh, what a mess this is going to be. Oh, nice pattern. Go ahead, screw it down. All right, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Okay.
Push it down a little bit. Okay, is there anything oozing out up there?
Yeah.
Okay,
There's not much on one side.
that's all right.
Hi.
Well, yeah, so it doesn't move, yeah. Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, it's going to have to be tighter than that.
I'm working on it.
You got adhesive on the threads?
Yeah.
That's probably not a good thing.
Well,
See if it comes down any. No, don't turn it.
I wasn't trying to.
I didn't care about that. I said, no, so it's hanging down. All right, hold it right there. Right there, don't move it. Why is it so hard to turn? It shouldn't be that hard.
It's just as slow. I was doing it with one hand.
One hand, huh?
I think that I both hands now.
Okay, push it down.
I did,
Is it down as far as it'll go? I'm gonna try to put more of this goo underneath it.
it's down as far as I can unless I unscrew it.
Okay. Okay, hang on a minute. Nice stuff, isn't it? They said a generous bead. I heard it. I saw it. I read it. Maybe I was too generous. Okay, now tighten it down.
Anymore.
Is it solid? Can you push it down? Yeah, it's got to go more than that. You have the flat flange down, right?
Yes.
Oh, you know what it is. Damn. Stop.
Okay.
We probably need a washer. It's probably at the end of the thread. Do you think? Can you tell?
I can't tell because I do.
All right, let's switch places. Gonna do a little investigation.
It looks like it's setting up tight now.
Yeah. As planned, what a shock in a boating maintenance situation. What we found out after we had everything gooed up is that the threads on the transducer were not long enough to accommodate the thin hull of the compact sailboat. So we've got a gap in there. So then it became a crisis. So what we have now is a real ugly mess that hopefully I can trim off a little bit. But since this 4200 sets up pretty fast and it's already setting, I feel confident that we've got a good seal in there. And I do have the a line tied onto the transducer, holding it firmly up to the hull, and then of course using the most useful tool on any boat or home, duct tape. It's secured and will stay there until I tell it to leave. So the only way to find out whether this was a success or not will be next weekend when we launch the boat, and as long as we don't sink, we will know that even though it's a mess, it's working.
You may notice in the video, a revelation came to me that in our commitment to making the film, we overlooked a basic assumption that the hull would be thick enough to accommodate the threaded portion of the transducer. As in the case of most revelations, this one arrived on site after the gooey glue had begun to set and had also infected the very threads of the transducer. The gooey glue was for the most part as set in its ways as the captain. It was an easy decision to let the gooey glue roast in the Florida summer heat a while and launch the following weekend. For the next few sailouts, not a drop of salt water dared to find its way past the gooey glue. In an overabundance of confidence, the HideAways planned a 3-day cruise. The transducer state of affairs, however, prevented sleep until one more test sail was scheduled. It lasted about 8 minutes after a couple of inches of water found its way around the gooey glue. Several hours later, the captain had successfully removed the transducer without bloodshed and had cleaned it to a respectable condition. At least now there could be some question as to whether a total idiot installed it or just some unlucky boob. I used a piece of 1/2-inch plywood and a brand new hole saw to make the washer for the transducer. Well, okay, if you must know, I dropped the old hole saw on the pavement while hurriedly trying to chuck it up. The trip to the tool store and back took most of an hour, but at least I had a sharp bit and had exhausted the more common cuss words. The plywood was more than thick enough to provide a strong mechanical bond to hold the transducer to the hull. A word of caution here, opening a tube of 4200 in a dark confined space is like letting monkeys out of a barrel. It instantly wreaks havoc on any clean surface, whether you notice it or not. It was a messy but successful outcome that has not leaked after months of rough water sailing.